Hi everyone, I'm Keren Loyer. I'm a Melbourne celebrant here in Melbourne, and you can join us very shortly on the online prosperity show where we will be talking about love, about the joy of being a celebrant, and what I love to offer my couples who are looking to get married. Please enjoy the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and today we have a guest who promises to bring a whole lot of joy, love, and celebration to our screens. Now, get ready for an episode that is not going to be only insightful, but filled with laughter and inspiration. Now, Keren, how are you doing, my love?
I'm great, Prosper. Lovely to meet you today, and thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm so excited to be talking to you.
Absolutely. Well, your reputation precedes you. I mean, there's a lot of happy people, happy couples out there, all courtesy to the work of your hands. And it would have been remiss for us to not bring that very person who's putting a lot of smiles and a lot of happily ever afters in other people's homes out there. Now, let's just kick off, things a little bit here, Keren. Could you maybe tell our viewers a bit about yourself and what being a celebrant means to you?
Absolutely. So I've been a celebrant. This is the 15th year that I have been a celebrant. It is one of the most beautiful, happiest, loving, and joyful jobs in the world. I wish I could find another word for job because it does not feel like a job. When I meet with my couples, I always recommend let's have a coffee or let's have a wine. Let's sit down and see if we're a good fit. And I always love asking my couples, tell me about the two of you. Like, how long have you been together and where did you meet each other? Because I am a very big lover of love. I love to hear people's stories. I feel like I live in the love bubble. That's what my husband says to me all the time. You live in the love bubble. You're always so happy. And sometimes I also get to drink champagne at the end of a wedding with a couple because, if a couple says at the end, you have to stay and have a champagne with us, it would be kind of rude to say no, wouldn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you're the one that got them hitched in the first place. So it will be
Yes,
apropos to celebrate with the person that made it all happen. Now,
absolutely.
how did you get involved in this line of not a job, like you say?
Yes. So it's a really interesting story. I guess I started off my career working in print media, in magazines, and then moved into community radio and then eventually into commercial radio. And my roles were always sales and marketing roles. And so what I used to do is I would meet with a business, I would find out their needs, and then I would present a marketing strategy and really help them grow their business through that. And then it got to 2007. We were having our first child, and I thought I'll take a year off and see what the year brings me. And about 9 months later, after my child was born, a friend who I'd reconnected with, we'd been together in high school and we reconnected when I worked at the radio station. And she said to me, we're getting engaged and I would love for you to be our celebrant. And at the time, I had been a year off work, and she'd said to me, I would love for you to be my bridesmaid, but I've got my two sisters and my best friend from when I was 3. So, we would love for you to marry us. So at the time, I looked into the course, and what I really loved about it is it was very similar to my career in radio and in my marketing career. Because here it was, I would meet with the couple, I would find out their needs, and then I would present a very unique wedding ceremony. And so, what I also have loved about it is that my side of the family is Jewish. I was born in Israel. I've been in this country since 1980. So, I came when I was very little. My husband's not Jewish. When we got married, a celebrant married us. And what I really thought I could find my niche within the market is where I could do ceremonies for couples where one is one religion and one is perhaps, Australian with no cultural or religious kind of history, and be able to bring that into a ceremony by really making the ceremonies inclusive and engaging, explaining the traditions. Why do we, for example, in a Jewish wedding, break the glass at the end? I love to explain that. Why do we do a Chinese tea ceremony? Why do we get married on a certain stand, the Porowa, when you are Sri Lankan? Why do you put the red dot in a Hindu wedding? So I really love to explain all of these traditions along the way. I've been very lucky that a lot of people find me knowing that I do these cultural things, especially within the Jewish community and other communities as well. And so my career kind of kicked off from there. At first, I thought to myself, I'll just have a little business on the side. People will know what I do. In the meantime, we had 2 more kids. And then when my little one went to kindergarten, my husband said to me, why don't you see if you can really turn this into a proper business because you love it so much. And then I realized that when I take something on, I never do it in a small way. It always turns into a big way. So this small little business that I thought I would have on the side turned into, nearly 60 weddings a year, which is actually beautiful. So most weekends I have anywhere between 1 to 3 weddings. I love meeting with people. I love hearing about their love story, what they love about each other. And I love sharing that with their loved ones on their wedding day and being part of this journey from the beginning to the very end, because a lot of my couples have never been married before. And so they have no idea where to start, what to do. And I see myself as I'm the vehicle to share their story. I'm there to hold their hand, to guide them on this process, and to be with them from the very beginning till the very end. And we become Facebook friends. And what I love is that I look at them like they're my babies. And then they go off and have their own babies. And sometimes they call me in to do a naming ceremony or even a funeral if someone has passed away, because we have that connection. And I kind of become the family celebrant.
Absolutely. I mean, you're obviously embedding yourself and being involved with what I think is one of the most emotional experiences anybody would ever go through in their life. But what I
Yeah.
what I noticed about the combination of who you were in the past and who you have become,
Yes.
it's pretty much the same thing, because in the past you were marrying brands with their audience, whether it was on radio
Yes.
or whether it was in print. And now you're just doing that with actual people. Had you ever established that sort of connection with what you're doing?
Yeah. Definitely. I never put the word like marrying and then marrying, but I love that. I think that is fantastic. Because quite often I'll say, oh, I married this couple on the weekend, and my kids will say, marry, don't you mean you performed the ceremony? I'm like, yes, but on the day, it's like this little love bubble of me with the couple. And so, it's about them, but I have helped them to form this union and this beautiful journey that they're on.
And I think that's the reason why you don't see this as a job, because for
Yes,
you, it now becomes a part of what you're doing. And the fact that you now get invited to even the bar mitzvahs or whatever it is that then comes pretty much after that
yes,
is very extraordinary. Now,
it is.
now you went on and started your business, and it started off with a friend who sort of gave you this sort of idea. How did you then go on to start accumulating these 60 weddings a year? Because in and of itself, that's not an easy thing to build
Yes.
a business to that magnitude.
Yeah, I think something that's always been something that's important to me, because I've always been in a sales and marketing role throughout my career, is networking and following up and customer service is probably the number one key, I would say, to my success. Getting out there, chatting with people. I think I have quite a good network because I love people. And when I meet people, I love talking to them. I love finding out about them. And so naturally, I have quite a large network of people who I bump into. In fact, my kids, whenever I'm out and about, they're like, oh, how many people is mum going to know while we're out today that she's going to stop and talk to because she knows everyone? And so I think the connections that I make with people for me are very important. So, when I first started, after that first wedding, it was, okay, let's create a bit of a website and let's get my name out there. Let's create a Facebook profile, an Instagram profile. In the beginning, I don't think it was really LinkedIn, but it was more around, okay, let's start getting some content out there and getting my details. And I think in the beginning, what was great as well is that within the Jewish community, we are a tight-knit community, and there's not really anyone doing what I'm doing in terms of being able to offer that really niche service of performing ceremonies where one is Jewish and one isn't, because a rabbi will not marry you unless both of you are Jewish. And so one person would need to convert. And that is a very big process. And it's not an easy thing to do. And also, it's not an easy thing to ask the person that you're going to marry, well, could you convert for me? And because Hebrew is my first language, I can do the blessings, I can speak Hebrew, and I can incorporate that. And I guess I also have an understanding, because my husband isn't Jewish, I understand what the parents of these couples might be going through, because in their mind, they maybe wanted their child to marry someone that has the same faith as them. And it's really navigating those things. So sometimes I'm not just the person who can do the legality, who can share their story, but sometimes I'm the therapist and the counselor for the couple and also for the parents. So I think in that way, I've been very lucky that my community has really supported me. There's a lot of Facebook groups, and when someone posts, I'm getting married, I'm Jewish, my partner isn't, does anyone know who could marry us? And then about 40 people will tag Keren Loyer, Keren Loyer, Keren Loyer. And I'll always get a phone call. I think as well, in the beginning, I looked at different kinds of ways to market myself. I went on a couple of platforms for the wedding industry, but I found that I was just competing with so many other celebrants, and I didn't really want to be doing that. So Google profile in my area, very important. Google reviews, really important. And just getting out there and chatting to people, I think, was kind of the way that built my business. Expos, I did a few of those, and they were bridal expos. And what better way to meet couples than being at an expo where people come up and talk to you? And even though it might only be a 1 to 5 minute conversation, I think I'm a very warm, genuine person. What you see is what you get. And I think because I genuinely love people, I was able to connect really quickly with the people who did stop and chat with me. And as a result, I was able to build up a database of couples that I started to marry.
Absolutely, I quite like that. And there's a lot of skills that come into this. I mean, even though you said you looked at the certification and you got that, which obviously puts you in a legal steed to be able to do what you're doing. But from what you're saying, you need to be able to talk to people. You need to be able to be empathetic, because if these people are
Yes.
emotionally going through what they're going through culturally
Yeah.
and they cannot connect and that level, you also did mention you have to be a therapist. You also have to be the friend,
Yes.
confidant, and all those things.
Yeah.
There's so
Yes.
weighing on the actual day and the outcome
Mm.
of this. And one thing that I don't think you would have realized is public speaking, because
Yes.
most weddings have 50 to 250 people, and you're speaking in front of that sort of audience. And a lot of
Yes.
people, even those that are really good in this space, would say, I'd rather be the person in the coffin than give the eulogy. Now, how
Definitely. And
how have you managed to harness
yes.
on in all of these skills in all of this time, and what have you done to constantly keep yourself relevant?
Yes, that's such a great question. And I love that you asked that because I think you're right. This is a people business. You need to be able to read the room. You need to understand people because, yes, it all seems so exciting. They're going to get married, but you're right. You don't know what's happening in the background. You don't know what kind of a relationship the couple have with their own parents. You don't know the relationship they have with the in laws that are about to come in. There's all of these politics happening. Maybe the father of the bride could have passed away and he now can't walk her down the aisle. These are all things that I kind of, ascertain and find out early on because I need to be so sensitive when I'm bringing things up because of the way they're going to be feeling. If someone has passed away, I love to recommend, perhaps we can incorporate that somehow within your ceremony to include that person. And because I've got 15 years of experience, there's so many little things couples don't think about that I can tell them about. In regards to public speaking, a lot of people find this very surprising, but I was an extremely shy kid. I was someone who, when I came to Australia from Israel, I was 4.5 years old. I was very shy. I did not feel comfortable, playing with the kids. When we would go out as a family, I would sit with my parents and I would always chat with the adults because I felt so much more comfortable rather than being with the younger kids. And what made me come out of this shell is I joined a youth group from a very young age. And from the age of 16 years old, in the youth group, you had the opportunity to learn how to become a leader within the organisation. And so you would have weekly meetings where you would learn about, the kind of sessions you could run and team building and being inclusive and all of these things. And I became a leader, and I led once a week to the younger groups, and I led on camps twice a year. And that really was kind of like the first start, I think, for me coming out of my shell and being able to speak to people. And then I took a gap year off. I spent it in Israel with the youth group. It was 6 months working on a kibbutz, and then 6 months traveling around and doing all of these things. And again, that brought me out of my shell even more, to the point that I've always kind of gravitated towards leadership roles. I love speaking to people. I love hearing about them. And I think when other people get scared about public speaking, I actually enjoy it. I love being able to do that because usually I might seem like I'm an extrovert, but I actually do like quiet time and I don't like to be the center of attention when we go out or we're with friends. But being a celebrant, I'm able to do that because I can be, the person that my couple wants me to be, sharing their story, making people laugh, making people cry a little bit, and just doing all of those things. And so I think naturally speaking in public is something that I really love.
Absolutely. I can only concur, but I think maybe there's one thing that a celebrant is always very afraid of on the day. I've been to a couple of weddings and then well, mine included, and
Yes.
they have asked, so, is there anyone in the crowd who is against, this happening?
Mm.
Has anybody ever stood up for you in the last 15 years?
Well,
You
to be honest with you, I've never actually said that. And I think that a lot of people, if they've never really been to a wedding before and they've never been married, they see these American sitcoms and these American movies where, someone says, "Does anyone object?" And at the end, they say, "By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and husband or husband and wife, or wife and wife." And so there's no legal part where I have to say, "Does anyone object?" And so I've never actually said that. because I think a lot of the times the couples are coming as themselves down the aisle to marry the other person. So I've never been in a situation. I have had couples ask me, "Can you please not ask if anyone objects?" And I'm like, "No, I don't need to do that. So don't worry, it's not part of what I do." Did
Oh,
people do that at your wedding?
um, no, that wasn't done. So for me, it's yeah, I find that I don't know, but if it's a church sort of wedding, I think they have
Yes,
to sort of say that, but I
they
don't
have to
think.
ask.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah,
obviously if you're
yeah,
going to be the one doing it, and
yeah.
what has been one ceremony that actually stands out for you in your memory? I mean, obviously this is people's lives you're talking about, but you can just give us a glimpse of what happened without sharing the names.
Oh wow, that's so interesting because I have so many couples. Like, I love every single one of them. And I just think, like, from one couple to another, it's just so different. I think maybe I'll give you an example of what my weekend was like. So on Friday, I met this beautiful couple at the Royal Botanic Gardens at 11 a.m. in the morning with only 25 of their loved ones. And we performed a legal only ceremony where I worked with the couple. They didn't really want me to share a story about them. They did want to write their own vows, so I assisted them with that. They wanted to exchange rings, and they wanted me to, I guess, just fluff up the ceremony a little bit because people were coming. So I put together a little bit of like a funny thing, but traditional as well, which I like to call marriage advice. And it's little things like, you know, continue flirting and dating with one another. Don't go to bed angry. Don't keep a scorecard of who's right, even though secretly you know that you are. Just all of these little tips that we shared with everyone on the day. And everyone absolutely loved it because when they looked at the couple, they thought, yes, that is what they're all about. And then on Saturday afternoon, I married another couple who her heritage is Greek and his is Australian. And so not only did we share their story with everyone, we shared about where they met, their first date, their beautiful proposal story. And then I included the Stephana Greek crowning ceremony. And it's a crown that you buy brand new, and it's placed on the couple, usually by the best man and the maid of honor. And it's placed on the couple and it's kept on there because the symbolism behind it is that they are now tied together as a couple. And we shared that story and it was absolutely beautiful. And then cut to Sunday afternoon, where I was called in at the last minute to marry a couple who they're both Jewish. Unfortunately, the rabbi couldn't do it because at the last minute there was some issues with paperwork. And so we shared their story of what they love about each other and what it's been like raising their two girls together so far and what their hopes are for the future. And that was also a beautiful ceremony because his family came from overseas and they have never seen that kind of ceremony before. They're used to very religious ceremonies. So it's such a broad range of things that I get to do. And I look at my job like I'm the vehicle to share your story. I don't talk about myself. I don't preach about marriage. I'm here to do whatever it is that you want me to share with everyone. And so every ceremony is so different because it's unique and it's written especially for the couple. I don't have a template where I slot their names in. And I always say to them, I'm willing to share anything. And I'm also willing to wear anything. If you want me to dress up as Elvis, or you want me to wear green, or you want me to wear blue. But I do say to them, I draw the line at nudity. I don't want to be nude, but if you want a nude wedding and you want to be nude and your guests are nude, I'm fine with that. I just don't want to be nude.
Interesting. Now that draws, a lot of you know, sort of questions when it comes to these weddings. Now, you mentioned Elvis outfit and things of that nature,
Yes.
and my mind went straight to Las Vegas. Now, do you
Yes.
conduct spare of the moment type weddings that people usually have. They meet at a restaurant and they're like, let's get married. And then they're like, who's the marriage celebrant? And then
And
you're called immediately, you know, to.
yeah. Look, unfortunately, no, only because anyone that wants to get married, and some people don't know this because they may not have been married before, but in order to be married, you do actually need to fill in a notice of intended marriage. And it does have to be filled in at least 1 month before your wedding ceremony. And it does last and is valid for 18 months. So there's never really a situation where someone can just get married like that. However, something that I've done a couple of times, probably 5 times now, is what we call a surprise wedding. So the only people that are surprised is basically everyone who's coming to the wedding. The couple are not surprised because we need to meet and we need to go through it. So sometimes I've been very lucky to walk in and say, hi, everyone. I know you thought you're coming to an engagement party or a 70th birthday or a, celebration today, but you're actually here because you are going to see this person and this person be married today in a surprise wedding. And that has actually been really beautiful because all of a sudden, like you have this room that's all quiet because I'm explaining to them what's about to happen. And then the room just erupts into this happy, joyous occasion where people are just so shocked, but they're so happy and they're so overwhelmed. And they get to hear about this couple and they get to see them being married right in front of their eyes and they weren't expecting it. And just the feeling in the room and the love is the most amazing experience. And I hope people get to experience that at least once in their lifetime.
Absolutely. Oh, I can so see, you know, people would think, oh, we're going to a 50th and then switcheroo. There's
Yeah.
rings being exchanged and things of that nature.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, now that puts you out of the people that have those kind of careers where people are sitting around a boardroom and then they're out of ideas and then they're like, who can we call? And then they're like, send the chopper, you know, and then because then you say it has to be predetermined and premeditated.
Yes.
So what would be the one thing that, first of all, people can actually get from you when they, you know, come? Like, what can they actually pay you for, and how can they start their process?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, as I said earlier, one thing I always love is saying to my couples, let's actually sit down and get to know each other and see if we're a good fit. Because when you ask for a price, you're comparing this price with another price when you haven't even met the person. And I always say, within a wedding, it is so important to choose your vendors and your wedding crew very well because these are the people that are going to be on the wedding journey with you from the very beginning till the very end. You want to know that when you have hired this vendor to do whatever it is that you've hired, like whether it's a celebrant or photographer, you want to know from the beginning that they're easy to work with, that they listen to what you're saying, and that they can take care of that entire aspect of that part for you. So I love to have a coffee or a wine where we get to know each other. And then I run through the entire process. And I run through the process of, I say to my couples, you know, it's great that we're meeting today. It's been lovely getting to know you. If you two decide we love Keren, we want her to be part of our day, the next process is that I would be setting up another meeting with you, probably 6 to 9 months out from your wedding ceremony. I'll be helping you fill in the notice of intended marriage, which is the legal document. And then I'm going to give you your homework. I'm going to give you a questionnaire, which I like to call your personal journey questions. And the questions on there are things like, where did you first meet? When did you realize you were in love? What do you love about each other? What drives you crazy, but you're still going to love for the rest of your life? You know, tell me what your family and friends mean to you. What are your hopes for the future? Tell me about the proposal. What do you love doing as a couple? If they've got kids, what's it been like blending the family? If they've got animals that are important to them, what's it been like having that little fur baby in your family? And I say to them that this is an exercise which they can do together or separately. And it's such a great opportunity to reflect on their relationship, where they started, where they are now, and where they see themselves in the future. And they can fill this in together or separately, because I think sometimes people have a different idea of who said what in the beginning, how did this happen, and then they send it to me and I put it together from there. But I give them lots of options. Do you want to write your own vows? I can give you a guide. If not, I've got options that you can use. If you're exchanging rings on the day, I've got options for that as well. Are your family important? Do you want to come up and give them a thank you throughout the ceremony with maybe a rose ceremony? If you're blending the family, do you want to do a tree or a sand ceremony to bring all of you together into that blended family? If someone's passed away, do you want us to read something? Do you want to include family members? And then I guess if they've got a certain faith that they were brought up with, I run through those things and I give them the examples of wording, because one of the most important things in a ceremony is that it is a true representation of the couple, as well as being inclusive and engaging. Because when someone comes to a wedding, they might not know, why are we doing the Greek Stephana? What's the symbolism? So we like to explain it as we go along. Once I give the couple their homework, I also make a time for their wedding rehearsal, which usually happens a week before their ceremony. And then once they've handed everything back into me, that's when I craft the ceremony. I take all of the information and I put it all together, and I write a ceremony that is that would resonate with them and with their guests, all about their love story. And they get back to me on all the other options. I always provide a wedding rehearsal because I think it's so important for them to have a visualization of the whole day. Where are we going to stand? How are we walking down the aisle? Where am I going to put my flowers? Where do they want me to be? Are they going to hold hands? And we run through their entire ceremony. I show them the rest of the legal paperwork that they still need to sign. And we just run through all of those tiny details of even which side do you want to stand on, depending on what their hair's doing. How is the ceremony going to end? Do you want everyone to come up and congratulate you, or do you want to walk down the aisle? All of these little pieces. And then on the day of their ceremony, I'm always there very early. I like to set up my speaker and microphone and play music, check in with the venue, make sure that we're on the same page. I like to chat to the photographer and videographer and let them know, hey, this is how the ceremony is going to run. I'm going to start off by saying this, then they're going to walk down the aisle. Before I talk about the vows or the rings or any cultural traditions that we're going to do, I'll explain them first so that you don't miss those photo moments, and make sure that, we work together well. And then I like to check in with whoever's there first out of the couple to make sure, have you gone to the bathroom? Have you had a drink of water? Have you all turned your phones on silent? And then once they walk down the aisle, it's basically running their ceremony. So I'm like their little assistant on the day. And because I've done thousands of ceremonies and I've been doing this for 15 years, I'm like all over it. Things that they haven't even thought about that they might need, I'm there supporting them. And something that I really take a lot of pride in is that my couples always say to me, afterwards, so many people came up and said, what a beautiful ceremony. And they asked, how long have you been friends with Keren? Because it seems like you're so close. And even though I might only meet with the couple 3 or 4 times, that connection we build at the very first time that we meet, and we get close. And I love that, because I feel that it's so important to have that connection and to share that story with someone who you feel comfortable with. And that's why that initial coffee or wine is crucial to see if we're a good fit. Because what happens in the ceremony dictates the rest of the night and the rest of the reception and the rest of the function that you're actually having.
Wow. This is very comprehensive, from
Yes.
the little knowledge that I had. I just thought you would just be the person that shows up, does the wedding,
Yeah.
and then that would be it. But you
Yeah. Yeah.
take the end to end hand holding part. My favorite.
Yes.
People should have seen me cracking in the back there, telling them to go to the bathroom because there's so much
Yeah.
that's happening on the day. People tend to forget, and yeah, they
Yes.
really need somebody to walk them through all of this. So
Yeah.
what would be the best way that people can actually get started working with you, Karen, because it does,
Yeah.
you know
Definitely. Usually people find me on my website. They can make an inquiry through my website. I try and make a habit of every single day posting the same content on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, because I think that brand awareness is so important. And when people see that post, they might see it on Instagram first, and they might see it on LinkedIn, and then they can be directed to my Google reviews and my what my couples have said about me on my website and on Facebook, because I think it's so important for people to have that visualize what's that person going to look that marries us, and they can contact me through all of those different forms of communication. They can usually couples email me with, this is the date that we're getting married. If you're available, we'd love to hear from you. And usually, what I'll do is I'll either email them straight away or I'll give them a call and say, I got your email. I'm definitely free on this date. I would love to meet with the two of you. What's your flexibility like? It can be a Zoom or it can be in person. Um, and people really find me from everywhere. So, I've been lucky enough to marry couples in Queensland, in New South Wales, and people fly me over there to do their weddings because we've basically had a connection. And for them, the ceremony is so important that they will fly me anywhere. I always say to my couples when they say, oh, we're getting married overseas, I'm like, no problem. My passport's ready to go. I can come with you.
Well, now there, fulfills my vision of you being the person that gets called from some holiday in Bali and send her a chopper. We gotta bring her to the
We got
wedding.
to bring her, yeah, and I would love to do that, but I actually don't have jurisdiction to marry couples outside of Australia. However, I have done ceremonies for people where they just want to do the legality here in Melbourne before they leave, or in whatever state they're in. And then they go overseas, and maybe a friend is going to do the love story and the sharing of everything. So I'm yet to be flown overseas, but I'm so open to it. I would love to do it.
Absolutely. Well, we're gonna speak it to existence, and I will make sure that we put all the details that you've given us on how to get in touch with you in the show notes
Yeah.
there. Now, Karen, you seem obviously to do a lot of the legwork that needs to happen for the wedding to happen. And a
Yes.
lot of brides and grooms usually have what's called crisis of anticipation, where you've had this whole emotion leading up to the day, and then when the day actually happens, then that's it. You know what I mean? After
Yes.
that, nothing else happens. Does your journey also end when the lady throws the bouquet?
Look, sometimes it does. What usually happens is that they'll have the ceremony, and then I always offer an extra service to the couple, which obviously they pay for, to be the MC at their reception. And that is usually something that can be done, I guess, by a band or a DJ, or sometimes a family member who has a lot of charisma and they want them to do that. But I do discuss with my couples that what's great about hiring a professional to be the MC afterwards is there are so many little bits and pieces that people don't really think about at a reception. Now, you're the couple, you've just got married, you don't want to have the venue operator coming up to you and saying, oh, we're just letting you know that the food is running a little bit late and someone needs to make an announcement. Or, the speeches are about to come up Now, what is probably the most important thing, do you think, that when speeches are about to start, what's something that should happen in the room when speeches are about to start? Like, who should be there?
Obviously, everybody that's important, and there should be some sort of silence for people to be able to,
That's
yeah.
That's correct. So, something that a professional who has emceed before, like myself, knows is that the couple need to be in the room. They should probably have a drink in their hand. They would have been pre-warned by me, checking in the whole time. We're going to do speeches in 10 minutes. Are you guys going to be ready to do that? Do you need to go to the bathroom right now? Do you need me to find your bag for you where your speech is? And we're going to go through it. And I would check in with all of the people making a speech. Hey, just letting you know, we're going to make a speech in 5 minutes. Making sure that I can see the parents, the sibling, the bridal party are all in the room. I once did a wedding a few years ago where I was the MC, and before we were about to start, I could not find the groom's dad, and I found him outside smoking a cigarette, walking around the grounds, and I had to bring him back in so that we could start the speeches, because the groom's dad would not have wanted to miss out on hearing all of the speeches, and also he was giving a speech at the very end. So my service kind of can continue on from the ceremony. What I also love about being the MC is that I love hearing the speeches. I love what people say about the couple and the advice they give them now that they're married. So I guess my service kind of stops perhaps after the reception. If I leave straight after the ceremony because they already have an MC, I would basically go home. My job isn't done yet. I still need to scan the documents, the legal documents, and put them into a portal through the Births, Deaths and Marriages website in whichever state I've married the couple. And then from there, I always send them an email that says something along the lines of, congratulations, you're married. I'll include a few bits and pieces that I remember that happened, wasn't it funny when you were putting the rings on and you put it on the wrong hand? Or, everyone looked so happy, and I'm so blessed that you chose me to be part of your day. And I give them some details about, if you're changing your name, this is what you need to do. If you're looking to do this, this is what you need to do. And lastly, I always put in my email, because my business is based on referrals, I would love for you to write a Google review for me that would be on my Google page for other people to see. And lastly, would you be happy if once a year on my social media, I said congratulations to you with a photo of the two of us that is ongoing? And please tag me in any of your photos. I'd love to continue to be part of that. And that's kind of usually where I guess I would finish the journey with the couple. But as I said earlier, a lot of the times they ask me to come back in to perform, a friend's wedding, a cousin's wedding, a sibling, a naming ceremony, a funeral, a celebration of life. And we can continue to be in each other's lives in that way.
Absolutely. I mean, every 3 years, something significant happens in a person's life.
Yes.
Either they move jobs, or they have a baby, or just something that warrants a bit of celebration. And I can see, the continuous effect that it has. And
Yes.
you have a very captive audience, especially when you're
Yes.
in front of maybe 250 guests. Whoever catches the bouquet, can also slide your
Yeah.
business card to them and be like, you know what,
Mm.
you're not.
I, Well, I usually do get a wedding from a wedding.
Yeah.
So usually I would have someone come up to me. One of the weddings I did on the weekend, it was really funny because I actually saw two couples that I've previously married that
Oh,
is part of the family. And so the couple knew that I had married the others and did ask me to say something funny at the end about the grandmother wanting to see more of her grandchildren get married. So I do have a whole bunch of business cards that I'll be handing out at the very end of the ceremony, but no pressure, guys.
You gotta have that sort of rapport with the people, and I think you're
Yeah.
the right fit for that person. But you got me laughing in the back. I wish people would be seeing that, because you're funny and you've got this energy about you and things of that nature. This is not the 4.5-year-old girl that was shy, timid, and wouldn't leave the hem of mom's dress. Now, knowing
Yes.
what you know now and the person you've become, what sort of advice would you give to your younger self about life and business, and yeah, just getting along
Mm,
with it?
yeah. I think what I've learned coming out of my shell is that I love to say yes to opportunities. I love to say yes. I'd love to have a coffee with you. I'm open to conversations. I'm open to working with people. Um, I would look at my younger self and I would say there was actually nothing to be scared of. Like, the world is your oyster, and if you just put your hands out and you put your heart out and you open your mind, it's amazing what comes back to you when you're open and you're a good person. And I think for me, I am someone who is such a giver. And what my couples see when I'm at the end of this wedding journey is how much I have given of myself to them. I'm always available to talk to them. There's nothing too hard to do. I'm like their buddy, their assistant, their hand holder through all of this. And I do it because I really just want them to have the most amazing experience. And I'm not doing it to get anything back from it. Um, it's the same when I meet with the couples for the first time and I say to them, let's see if we're a good fit. And I say, I'll take you out for a coffee. And at the end of it, there's no obligation. I might not be the right fit for you. I might not be the right price for you, but let's just sit down and have a conversation. And so I think they're probably the things that I would think about when I was younger and shy and, wouldn't leave my parents. Just be open and just try. And the world is, can be a scary place, and there's a lot of stuff that isn't good at times, but generally just try and be a positive, happy person that other people want to be around.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for spreading love around, and for making it last. Now, as a celebrant, somebody who's been around so much love and also emotions and things of that nature, what sort of advice would you give to other couples that have already been married? I mean, obviously that's it, but what sort of marriage advice do you usually disseminate to people that you think people should definitely take note of?
Yeah, I love that you asked that, Prosper. I think I am so extremely lucky and blessed. I met my husband over 26 and a half years ago. I was a young 22-year-old who was independent, wild, crazy, had come out of her shell. And, I've been lucky enough to be married to my husband for over 21 years. And over that time, I have learned so much about myself and so much about people. I have a loving and supportive husband and an amazing family. We've had our ups, we've had our downs. I would say to my couples, and I'm not shy in saying this when I meet with them, to fill in the legal paperwork, I always say to them, when you face challenges, you need to look at the person next to you and you need to face them together and you need to come together in those times. And there's nothing wrong with going to get counseling at the times that you need it, because the two of you can't be perfect in every way and can't be the person that the other one wants. And over the years, we've gone to see counselors and therapists a couple of times, and that has strengthened our bond. And I think those things are so important to do. It's so much easier to walk away than to stay and to fight for the love and to fight for your relationship. I say to my couples as well, keep dating each other. You know, our children are nearly 17, 14 and a half, and nearly 11. And we were together for 10 years, my husband and I, before our kids came along. And so every fortnight we have a date night. We talk on the phone all the time. We make our relationship a priority. And I think that is something that is so important. And I say to my couples, you need to keep being there for one another and spending time together. Because once the kids leave the nest, you're going to turn around and go, who are you? If you haven't spent that time together. So I think doing those little things for each other and being there for one another is very important. And hopefully will ensure that you're married for a very, very long time.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Keren. From what I'm hearing, it's cheaper to keep her, right?
Yes, happy wife, happy life.
Absolutely. Oh my God, what an enlightening and uplifting conversation we just had with Keren Loyer today. If you've enjoyed this episode as much as I definitely have, be sure to hit that subscribe button and watch this again, or send this to a friend who is about to get married, especially if they are in and around Australia, because Keren is, the right person for that. And I also don't want you to miss out on more insights and inspiration like this. And Keren, I can't thank you enough for the time that you spent with me on the show today. I think I've learned a great deal just about being an absolute awesome human. So thank you so much for that.
Oh, Prosper, thank you so much. I have loved talking to you about something I'm so passionate about. Being a celebrant, I feel, is just part of who I am as a person, and I love what I do. And I've really appreciated you asking me questions and talking to me about love. Love is everything.
Oh, absolutely. It is the actual cement, of our culture in and of itself.
Yes,
Okay? Where there's no love, confusion happens, and so many people live in, broken relationships. If only they could have just exposed themselves to what you're doing. And it's so easy for people to follow trends or just watch things on TV and think that's what's supposed to happen. And I think if you take anything from what Keren is saying today, just love the person you're with, and especially when kids
yes,
are involved. um when the kids are growing, they're also growing, because I like the statement that you mentioned at the end, that when you now become an empty nester, you're going to be looking at the person next to you and you don't recognize them. And that's the worst feeling ever. So thank you so much for those, words of wisdom. Now, until next time, keep celebrating life's beautiful moments, people. And remember, there's always a reason to spread love and joy. Thank you so much for joining us today. Bye for now.